All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. We are back with another episode. This one is for the My Queer Dating app series, where I talk about my experiences on dating apps. So, what do I look for on dating apps? Good question. No, I try to portray myself so that, when somebody meets me, there's not going to be any surprises. There's not going to be any weird, like, oh, I didn't know that, or oh, I assumed this or that. I try to type things the way that I would possibly say them. I try to describe my personality as it actually is. My sense of humor. Sometimes online, I don't think it really comes across. Because online is hard to have your personality kind of come across. I try to make sure that, things feel like a safe space, and that it's, not one-sided, not me just asking a bunch of questions, not just a bunch of back and forth, just kind of like, how's your weather? Oh, my weather has clouds this morning. There's a marine layer, and that's how it is every day over here. And how's your weather? Oh, like, I live in the part of the city where, we're not close to the beach, and so there's, it's hot, and it's like, I can't do that every single day. Like, I like some depth to things. Now it doesn't have to be like fully deep, like, like dive deep, super deep dive, like first sentence, but, or consistent all the time. Like, there's kind of a good mix of things. I do prefer people who talk more, typing. I mean, I do like to meet people too. I don't want to just be like talking all the time on an app, or, but usually I prefer if, after on the app, if people want to exchange contact info. I've known some people to exchange either, this is way back, with like emails. I don't think people do that anymore. I've given someone my email before when they asked for my number, like, because I was just like, well, email's easier to just be like, whatever. But that was a whole other situation. That was like some in-person situation where I was at like a movie theater. I used to go to movies in the mornings by myself because I was like, well, my friends aren't going to wake up and I'm done at the gym. So, like, what the heck am I going to do before, like, noon, or, like, 1 p.m. when everybody finally starts getting up? It's like I've been up since, like, 5 or 6 in the morning. And so I would go to movies just to kind of kill a couple hours and relax and see a movie. So I would go a lot by myself in the mornings on a weekend morning. Waiting for my friends to kind of get up and be like, yo, who wants to have lunch, like, wherever. And then it's like, finally everyone would be up and going. So around 10, I would see like a matinee. And there was this one experience where there was this dude working the ticket ripping booth. And he made some comment about my hair. It was like a nice comment, like, oh, I like your hair. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because I don't usually have people comment on them liking my hair. I remember I was, I don't not have people commenting on it, but I don't always have people commenting on it. And I was using like this Talia Waajid curl something. It was like, it's not a hold, it was like a holding, it's kind of like a cream that's like holding a holding cream. I don't know what it's called. actual container. But yeah, dude came in and sat next to me in the movie theater, and started talking in the movie, and I was like, dude, I just want to watch this movie. And it was like an almost empty movie theater because it's like 10:30 on like a Sunday or something. And like, I'm like, man, like, actually no, it wasn't in the morning, because I remember when I got out of the movie, it was night. And then, he asked me for my number. I gave him my email. He asked me if he could walk me to my car, and I said, well, I'm not going right to my car. I just want to kind of walk around a while. So I walked around a while, and yeah, we ended up messaging back and forth, and we both kind of wanted two different things. I kind of wanted to like get to know the person first, and he was just kind of like, I just want to hook up, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not really into that. Not that I'm not, but just with him, I wasn't interested in him anyways. And so, I could have maybe become interested in him, but just I didn't like when we were walking. Like, we took like a walk around like the outside of like the mall perimeter, so it was like a pretty lengthy walk. So we were talking for probably like 30 minutes, and he was just really sarcastic and just kind of trying to challenge everything I said, and it was kind of obnoxious. That was what I didn't like. So I was just thinking, like, dude, unless we're just like hanging out, like, I'm not trying to like hook up with this guy like that. And that's kind of where that went. And he got offended that I didn't really want that, and I was kind of offended that he was kind of offended that he didn't want to like get to know each other on a deeper level. He just wanted the sex part, and I was like, that's fine, but I'm not really into really hooking up with people that I don't feel like I vibe with, because I just didn't like the sarcastic attitude. Like, we were talking about movies, and I was like, yeah, like, I like action movies, but I tend to like it before the action, where there's like the story, and then after a while, once it becomes like the wars and the explosions and car chases and all that kind of stuff, it's kind of like, okay, like 90 minutes of that is kind of like not really what I prefer. I prefer action movies that have like a better storyline to them, like a deeper storyline to them, versus just like the action and explosions and all that. And he's like, well, that's what action movies are for, and just like kind of like a know-it-all kind of person. And I was just not, I'm like, bro, your vibe. So we did email exchange quite a bit, and we just realized, he was looking to hook up with somebody, and I was looking more to, just, I would be willing to get to know him, but I was like, I already didn't like the first impressions. That was too much for me. I was like, dude, you met me at a ticket thing. You came and sat with me and watched the whole dang movie, and then you try to walk me to my car, and then we exchange contact info, and then you try to keep talking to me that way, trying to like hook up. And like, I was kind of like, no, like, I mean, I get it, but I didn't really find the person attractive in a way where I would have wanted to be with them. Like, I don't know, like, it's not all about like looks, but I mean, if the personality had been more towards what I preferred, then that would have been different. But anyways, as far as what I look for kind of on an app, other than how I'm expressing myself and how I'm sharing about myself and my experiences, I also want to make sure the other person's having a good time and a good experience. I just have a hard time sometimes with it, but cause it's like, I feel like when I'm on dating apps, it's like I get part of what I want, but it's not like fully what I want while we're in the app. And so trying to kind of make it more close to what I actually prefer kind of takes a while to get to like know a person enough to try to get to know where, you know, we would likely be meeting. I mean, it doesn't have to be some like major thing where it's like we're going out on some massive romantic thing, but you know, just meet up real quick for a snack or a walk or something and get to see each other's vibe in person. This person that, you know, has been in communication for a while. I would say I prefer to meet people. Sorry, I'm getting dressed. I prefer to meet people maybe within, depending how consistently we're talking, but I would say within a matter of maybe not days. That's kind of short. I understand days is kind of short. Weeks. Weeks. Within 2 months. I mean, I think 2 months is a lengthy amount, but within about 2 months. Sorry. I'm arranging my desk, guys. Alright, bear with me. So yeah, if I can meet somebody within about the first 2 months of starting the conversation, then that's usually fine for me. 2 months is probably like about the max I would give it. Because that's a pretty long time to be just like online chatting with somebody. I do tend to talk to more than one person at a time, but that's not like all the time. It kind of just depends what's happening, what's going on, who's responding, who I'm interested in. Who I kind of want to, you know, like usually if I'm talking to them on a dating app, it's because I want to meet them. Like, I don't tend to talk to people on there just to talk to people. Like, sometimes the conversation really is that good, though. Like, and they're, like, in another state or another country or something. And it's like, dang, wish you were closer. But, you know, sometimes, yeah, the conversation really can be just that good, though. So, I'm there for that, too. But that's not really the primary method that I want to use. That's not really primary for me. To talk to people who don't live locally. As in, like, who don't live in a place where I live. Like, and if it's in LA, it's got to be within a 30-minute drive, maybe 35 minutes. And that's like if it's without traffic. I'd say usually about 30 minutes without traffic. That's probably about a good max for me. But I don't know. What else? Like, that's kind of the more surfacey level stuff that I would say I look at, is just kind of that general type of situation. But I don't know. It's not always that easy to be like trying to figure these things out. All right, so Sorry for the delay. I was getting ready for work. Our work server is still down. And then I just went all the way into the afternoon. So let me finish up this recording. So yeah, like when it comes to kind of what I'm looking for, I was kind of talking to a friend about this, like around my lunch break, saying like, at the moment, this is just a momentary thing, kind of how I feel lately with all the recent changes that have been going on. I'm kind of noticing, because I've got a lot of compassion fatigue from work, I'm kind of not really seeking people who are requiring too much compassion from me. Like, not, that sounds bad, but I'll give you an example. So, a recent person I was chatting with was talking about, a lot of things I saw on their profile basically were about like liking deep conversations and, that kind of thing. So I kind of was like gravitating towards that and towards like the activities of things that they like to do, hiking and all sorts of like beach stuff and outdoor stuff, and they don't really seem like a complete like couch potato or anything like that, so that was kind of cool. And they live close by, so that was cool. And I was kind of like, this would be the type of person I'd probably meet to just hang with, because like I think I mentioned, like, I don't usually just go into engaging with people on apps for the sole purpose of trying to find dates and a life partner and all that. Like, if that kind of stuff comes to my life, then so be it. I'm not opposed to it happening, and I'm also not opposed to being relatively single or more closely identifying as a single person, or just not like too committed to someone. Like, I would be fine with that, like just something casual, or even just friends or whatever. Like, I'm kind of just down for even the casual version of stuff. So I'm not usually on dating apps just straight up like trying to like find like somebody who is like a forever partner. I know some people are on there that are looking for that, and I usually try not to engage with the people who aren't shooting for that. And so, I was pretty, intrigued, I guess, or interested in what I saw on a person's profile. But, when we started kind of interacting a little more on the app, it was kind of more towards the things that are going maybe wrong in their life, that they're not happy with, like the way they were kind of wording some of the stuff that could potentially be positive was still kind of negative, like kind of almost to the tune, not, this isn't exactly what they said, but it would almost be somewhere along the way of saying like, okay, I've had a long-term, struggle with my finances because of my mental health, and I finally got a car, and then I crashed and totaled it, and so I won't be able to get a new car until mid-new year. It's kind of like, but they're like, oh, but at least I'm okay. And so it's kind of like, okay, yeah, you are okay, but it's like, that's not really positive. It's kind of like, whoa, like that's a lot. And so, I was kind of talking to my friend where I was like, my natural inclination when I talk to people, especially if they're like, oh, like all this negative stuff is happening, usually I'm like, oh wow, like, and I want to kind of like connect on a deeper level of like showing empathy towards them and like, but honestly, as of how I'm feeling today and like for this weekend and just lately in my head, I'm kind of like, I don't even want to talk about these problems that you're bringing up. Like, I don't even know you. I just want to have fun. Like, let's party, like I'm trying to go out and have fun and like, have some activities together and just like have a good time while we're getting to know each other. I'm not trying to like deep dive into all a person's problems right now. It's like, that's just not really where I'm trying to go. I'm not really, and so that's why I say like, because of having like compassion fatigue, outside of work, I don't really feel a lot of desire to really be engaged with people who are talking about all their problems all the time. Like, I've got a friend who, he is usually messaging me about people who, how can I explain this? Kind of about people who he's encountered who are usually like males with like some ego issues and, trying to be aggressive and dominant and controlling of other people. Like, he's encountering a lot of people like this. And kind of his messages for like years have been that way. It's like every topic turns into that topic somehow. And I'm just kind of like, oh God, like whenever I see his messages lately, I'm just like, oh God, like I don't even care. Like, I don't even read them. I'm just like, all right, like I don't respond till I want to respond, because I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Like yesterday, I got like 6 really long messages and I was like scrolling without even reading. He sent like 6 back-to-back really long messages and I was like, oh my God. And then like a little later on, towards the evening, like 4 more really long messages and I was like, oh my God, like, like of course I'm not gonna read that. So I read like the end part and when he started talking about like love and that kind of thing, then I was kind of like, all right, like I'll talk about like love and dating and relationships because that's kind of what I want to talk about. That's kind of how I'm being lately with people. It's like, dude, when you're draining my energy, I just want to talk about what I want to talk about. I'm not really trying to like just be like, providing more like compassion and sympathy for people and empathy for people. Not that I don't care and not that I don't want to be nice. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's more so like I'm trying to connect not really on the level of me being the person who's giving all the compassion and empathy and then another person taking that from me, and them getting kind of that from me as primarily what they're looking for, and then I'm just left over here hanging in the wind like, all right, well, what am I getting out of this? It's kind of like, that's kind of how, I'm not saying everybody I've ever dated is like that, but that's kind of how I do notice a lot of my early dating conversations do begin, is like there's a person that's got this like negative kind of outlook on things and then they just kind of roll with it, and usually I'm kind of like into trying to let them know that I care and things like that, and I'm just kind of like, I don't even really know you enough to really care. Like, I care enough as I would for any other human that I don't know on that level, but I don't really feel like I have the energy to try to give to anybody that I'm not already invested in. My current family and friends, I'm very invested in them. I'm very invested in my clients. I'm very invested in my work colleagues. Other than that, I'm not really invested. I don't have more energy to really invest in brand new people investing in a lot of their issues. And so I don't really want to talk about all their problems. Not that I don't want to know, I just don't want to be like I don't want to be their main support. And even the person that, from the old house that I'm still finally started talking to late September about getting back my deposit from the rent, that person is, struggling on their end. And so they're kind of like, stalling on sending me kind of what's owed to me. And, but almost like, whenever they do want to talk, which I don't want to talk to them unless we're talking about my money. I'm not trying to talk to them. But whenever they do want to talk, they want to explain to me all their health issues. And like, I'm just kind of like, I don't really fucking want to know all this. Like, I just, just tell me when you're going to send me my money. Cause I want you to send me my money before I forget. Like, I don't really even like need it. It's just, it's mine. So give it back, But, so that's kind of, the early kind of like what I'm looking for. I do like, there's certain kind of like gender related things that I like. Like I've mentioned before, I'm very attracted to like androgyny. I'm very attracted to people who kind of like to play the lines between like masc and femme. Even people who like maybe one day are more masc, one day are more femme, or whatever. Just kind of like according to how they kind of feel. That's I like that too. I like that's kind of what I like. I'd say just like as far as physical, like people who just take care of themselves, basically. People who believe in eating healthy, who believe in exercising, who believe in like a lifestyle balance. That's, they don't have to be like 100% like always in shape or always feeling happy or always in a certain, there doesn't have to be like an always to it, but definitely it needs to be something that's a part of their lifestyle, for me to feel comfortable with trying to be like in a deeper relationship together with them. Now, if it's just friends, that's different. I don't really have that kind of an expectation about like friends of mine. It's kind of like, okay, if you want to eat cheeseburgers every day, that's kind of your thing. But one thing I do have maybe more of a frustration with friends or dating or anybody is like when they're not able to kind of care for their health enough to where it's like impacting our relationship. So if that's either like mentally, emotionally, even physical health, when people have issues and then they can't like do anything, so it's like we made plans to go do this or that, and then it's like, because they haven't been managing things, they can't do that anymore or something. Like, and I'm not talking about like if a person has a disability, I just mean like just people being able to like maintain themselves, because it's a little frustrating, like I have dated somebody before in the past where it was like we would make plans to go on dates and then like they would never remember to wake up on time or whatever, and I was just like, this is so annoying, like that's annoying to me. And I was not happy, I was just like, they needed to take better care of their health, but I met them kind of like early in their health journey, and it was kind of the first time they'd ever had a health journey. And so they weren't like raised around like healthy living styles and things like that. And so it was like they're learning from scratch what they need to do. So it was kind of hard being patient with that. But or people who have like severe drug addictions. Like I've gone on dates with somebody who was like using, illicit substances, and would not be able to keep plans because they would rather be doing that instead of like actually meeting up and doing stuff. And I was just like, like maybe we made a plan the week before, and then they're like coming back like, when I would try to confirm the day of or the day before and be like, hey, are we still meeting up? And they'll be like, nah, I'm just gonna go do these like substances with these people over here instead, and maybe we can rain check. And it's like, we already made plans. It's like, I don't like when people are like doing that, like I don't want somebody blowing me off because of that. It's like that kind of thing is like, you get one chance and then I'm kind of not gonna plan anymore. Like, it honestly even kind of like annoys me a little bit, even with friends, when like we might have plans in the morning and then people get like too hungover to like actually like keep the plans like a little bit. That can be a little bit annoying for me, because sometimes it's like I might plan things to do back to back, and then it's like, well, I'm not gonna cut into my second plans. If the first plans aren't gonna work, I'm not gonna push back the first plans while all the hungover people sober up, so we can actually go out later than what we had expected, because I have plans later. And so that's kind of one thing that kind of can annoy me. So a lot of times when it's like a new person that's kind of like that, I'm just like, like I usually don't give it a whole lot of chances, honestly, because I'm like, that's a waste of my energy and time. But yeah, I mean, I like people who are honest, people who are aware of themselves, people who work on themselves pretty deeply, people who reflect on things pretty regularly, and have goals to balance different things in their lives, and whatever isn't fully balanced, they're working towards figuring out how to do that. And like, that's kind of what I find appealing, is people who like to kind of keep the work going on themselves and learning what's best for themselves and doing what's best for themselves, like not really in like the most selfish of ways, but like focused on their own well-being and relationships with others and that kind of thing. Like, that's kind of what appeals to me more than most types of things. And so I guess that's kind of mostly what I'd have to say about that. But yeah, I have been kind of like trying to see if there's more that I could say about that kind of thing. That's kind of all that really comes to mind, is kind of like early on. That's kind of what I'm looking for. It's more so like the connection that's not draining, and then kind of focus on like balance, health, and fun, positive energy. I am kind of in a mood to party, but not with people who get way out of control. Yeah, so that's kind of where my head is right now when it comes to dating apps and those types of things. If we're going to be hanging out online, I want it to be fun. If we're going to be hanging out in person, I want it to be fun. I don't want drama. I don't want illness surrounding me. None of that. So, not that people have to be perfect. Like I mentioned, like it's not like my life is perfect. It's not like I'm perfect. But, I do try to, like, work on stuff. And, like, when I need time and, like, space, I try to take that. And I try to, like, reset things to a place where I'm more functional in certain areas than I was before. I kind of would want to be with somebody who cares for those things too, and not someone who just kind of lets themselves go, like, completely, and just, like, that's going to put a strain on the relationship, if they're kind of just not pulling their weight with, helping themselves. Because that, I don't have the energy or finances or, desire to have all that come back on me. Like, I don't want to spend all my time in the ER and spend all my time helping people with doctor's appointments or helping people with their stress, or not being able to hang out because they have to work so much more because they're not good with their finances, so they don't have weekends anymore because they're never available because they're always working. I'm not saying, like, due to the economy, that's a whole different thing. I just mean people who just, like, can't budget. Or people who, don't really know what they're trying to do in life, or don't have goals and passions, and aren't creative and that kind of thing. Like, for example, people that are, like, complete couch potatoes that just sit in front of the TV all day. That is not appealing to me. It's kind of like, whatever, like, I'm not really into that. So, yeah, so I am kind of looking to find those types of things mostly. And usually, I have found those types of things in people, but just, everything's been kind of slow going lately because of the pandy. And then, once that kind of shifted to when people can meet more in person and everything, nowadays people can, so now that we're in that phase of things, it's still like, okay, if I'm gonna meet you, I want it to be worth my while. And I want to be worth someone else's while too, but I think a lot of times people's energy can feed off of each other, so, I don't want to be connected in a way where it's like, now we're both, not functioning at all. But yeah, so that's kind of all I had to say on that topic. Sorry it's a bit messy, but thanks for listening.